Hello, everyone. It's another time of that month. Our time flies. How are we all doing today? Yes, it is yours again, Mayowa Olusoji. Well, you call me Coach Mo. I'm okay with that as well. So we're on for another interesting time tonight. I think I'm a little bit early, so I'm just going to wait a little bit for you all to join in. So while you all are joining, let me just begin to see if we have anyone who is early and who is sending some messages. It is You and Your Money series, and it is series 9 for the month of October. And we will be talking today about something very, very interesting. It stems down from what I call the investment pillar, that is multiplying your money. How do you multiply your money? But it's actually looking specifically into what exactly is the next narrative. For you to invest, it's important for you to understand the current economic climate and for you to be able to understand and know the direction of the trend, what we call the narratives. What's going to There's no point you investing in a sector that is actually going down when there are other sectors that are actually booming. You could imagine in the dot-com bubble, back in 1999, people who were actually investing in non-tech related products soon found out they were actually backing the wrong horse almost 10 years after. But people who have the foresight to actually understand and know exactly that we actually enter into a different dispensation, and that is information technology, were able to actually position themselves properly so that eventually, by the time everybody caught up on that narrative, they are part of the people who actually benefit from the wave. It's all about the timing, what time you get into the market. If you buy a company that is actually, imagine people who bought Amazon 20 years ago. I can bet you they bought Amazon for a fraction of what the price is. Imagine people who bought Tesla about 10 years ago, 7 years ago, actually. Imagine how much they got that for. Imagine people who invested in Nvidia like 6, 7, 8 years ago. And all of a sudden we had Nvidia going from around 3, 4, 10, $20 going to the excess of 3 to 330, 340, $400. So it's about you understanding the narrative. Where are we heading to as a global economy? What is the narrative that will bring the best possible return? And in terms of just being in the know, and that's why information is everything. So tonight we will be talking about what I call the ABCD of the exponential age. And why ABCD of the exponential age? What is the importance of that? Why should we pay attention to that? There are a host of other factors to consider, but most importantly, I just picked these three because, in terms of this particular four, because if you can actually understand the role this four plays, it will give you that understanding of the age we're actually edging into. And it is not just for investment purposes, but for you to be well positioned and to be informed about what is happening. A lot is happening right now. There is wars, there are rumors of war, everything is happening. But at the same time, the commerce and industry is not slowing down. People are still waking up, going to work. People are still, ideas are still coming. People are still, engaging in transactions. So one thing we know about the world there is the world does not stop. The world keeps moving. So regardless of what is happening around the world, that time keeps ticking. So today we will be talking. So let me see if I have my people online. Hello, everyone. And whatever time you're watching this, once again, this is Coach Mo from Power to Know. And we will be talking today about, it's actually series 9 of You and Your Money, ABCD of the exponential age. If we can study the trend over the last 40, 50 years, we would know that there has been some key drivers that have actually propelled the growth we've had within those dispensations. But for the first time, I would say in the human history, we have more than one particular driver that is actually propelling, that is actually propelling what we're heading into. And that is why actually, I heard the term exponential age from Paul Rahul, and he was talking about how all these factors come together and converge, and they give us that exponential growth. And when we're talking about growth, especially when we talk about the economic growth, there are a few factors we need to consider. For us to talk about economic growth in terms of GDP, we have to talk about in terms of, the population growth. We have to talk about the debt growth. And most importantly, we talk about productivity growth. And the area we'll be focusing on tonight is actually productivity growth, because that's probably the only area we have the best chance of actually harnessing what is coming in the next dispensation. So the ABCD of the exponential age, I'm going to start with A. What is the A? And for me, the A is artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is being in the making. I think Google has been working on their AI for more than 8 years thereabout. So it's not something new. But about 6-8 months ago, ChatGPT, OpenAI, burst into the scene, and the rest was history. And all of a sudden, for the first time, we're witnessing what we call the artificial intelligence. The word artificial intelligence is loosely used to the point whereby sometimes we don't even understand what that is. So I will just break it down in simple terms like we normally do. And that is, what is artificial intelligence really? And what does it mean? Is there just one type of AI, or are there different types of AI should we be aware of? And why does this play an important role? Should we be worried? What are the opportunities that are actually available in this? And what I would say about my definition of artificial intelligence is it is that ability for a machine to actually simulate human intelligence. And what does that mean when I said simulate human intelligence? That means the machine having the ability to do some basic task, not even basic tasks, to actually execute things like learning, reasoning, creativity, and problem solving. Now, those are 4 key things that actually come together to make what we call the human intelligence. Why is this important? For the first time in human history, we have something that has the ability to simulate what we call the human intelligence. In organizations, they go out there, they scout for talent, and what they're looking for there is they're looking for human intelligence. That is what we're looking for. Now, for the first time in human history, there is an alternative, and I'm using this word carefully. There is an alternative to human intelligence. That means there is the ability for a machine to simulate what humans can do in the area of learning, how humans learn, in the area of creativity. This is crucial. In the area of reasoning and in the area of problem solving. Up until now, what we do there is we use computers, we use them basically for whereby we use their processing power to execute tasks. So we give them a set of actions, a set of rules, and we tell them, based on the rules we've created, go and do these things because you can actually do them faster. And that was what computers could do up until now. So if you go into an Excel, it is the rule and the coding that is behind a particular solution framework we've created that the computer was working on. So the computer was not solving problems. The computer was actually responding to the logic that was given to the computer by humans at a much faster rate. And all of a sudden, we've moved from that realm to the realm and the possibility of the machines being able to do what? To simulate human intelligence. The machine being able to problem solve. I don't think we know the magnitude of what is going on right now. We think when we talk about AI is not just that ChatGPT prompt you go into and you type into it and you say, can you give me this? That is not what AI is all about. That is just a tip of an iceberg. That is like a drop in the ocean. of what AI is, that is just a drop in the ocean. So for the first time in human history, humans truly have something similar in the area of their ability to learn. And I'm not going to say similar. I think the computers have a faster ability to learn because of the processing power they can have. Their ability to reason, their ability to solve problem, and their ability to create. And what is actually currently happening right now there is each day that goes by, the AI becomes smarter. Each day that goes by, with more data that is going by, with more data that is available, the machine is actually learning. And its ability to learn is exponential. It is not the same way where we humans learn, like, okay, our basic learning rules does not apply to the machine learning rule. They are completely different. So I really want us to understand the depth of what we're talking about here when we're talking about AI. And one of the most fundamental factor of AI is its ability to learn. Human beings, we acquire whatever knowledge we have because we have that openness to learn. Our brain is flexible. We can absorb knowledge. We can make connections. We can think critically. Now, for the first time, we have non-humans who have the ability to learn and to do what we thought was quite fundamental. And this will now bring us to the point whereby we will begin to actually question then who or what is more superior. And when we're talking about AI, there are quite a number of different ways we can actually categorize that. We can talk about AI in terms of different breadth, but we have things like the artificial general intelligence. That's the one that is just on general topics. It's the way it's learning. We have the artificial narrow intelligence that is just specific to a particular area, and we have the ASI, the artificial super intelligence. But we're going to look at it from two different dimensions, and that is the two different categories we have, and that is the machine learning. That is the type of artificial intelligence that can actually learn. They are trained based on examples. So what they do there is they simulate they go through examples over and over and over again, and each time they go through an example, they learn how to do it better. So when they fail, next time they fail better, next time they fail much better, until it gets to an exponential level whereby they actually supersedes the capability of current human thinking. And that's the machine learning part of it. And the other part of it is actually the rule-based AI. And these are the ones whereby specific rules are given to it, and it actually goes to actually develop itself based on those specific rules. And that is the first one. And if we think what we've seen so far from AI is what AI is all about, then we've not really grasped the depth of what this is. I believe the moment AI was actually allowed to connect to the internet is what I would call the point of no return. That means with the genie is out of the bottle, we cannot put it back in again. And the AI is learning at a much faster rate. It's learning, its ability to solve problems, its ability to think. Right now, we have AIs that are writing better codes than human. It's because that is the way they are. As long as give them enough room, give them enough data, give them enough data warehouse, give them enough processing chips and micro or semiconductors, and they would learn much faster. So the more data they have, the faster they learn. And the faster they learn, the far superior the intelligence will be. So that is the first area. So as an investor now, let's bring this back home and say, I'm not preaching it. I'm not talking any dystopian, reference today in terms of what should we do as human. No, we're looking at it from purely in terms of investment point of view. So it will get to a point that every organization will be forced to actually deploy AI in one way or the other because their competitors are going to be doing that. We know Microsoft started that with ChatGPT. Now we know that Google has started that. Actually, we know Google is actually now brought in Bard. We now know, Apple is working on theirs, Tesla is working on theirs, and that is what happens. Different organizations are actually now working on their different versions of AI just to remain competitive. And all of a sudden, what we're going to have here is more efficiency in terms of productivity, because right now it's like infinite knowledge worker we have here. Humans, when you think and you think and you think, it gets to a time you get tired. That does not happen to a machine. As long as the machine stays plugged in, as long as there is power, it continues. It does not take a break. So it continues. So we have right now the infinite knowledge worker. And the other side of it right now, which is the area, is now we have the robotic side of AI. And this is where we now have the labor workers that are actually going to be powered by AI. I think 2, 3, 4 days ago, I posted something on my timeline, and that is for the first time in Phoenix in America. They've approved the first driverless Uber cars to actually start working. They've been testing it for a very long time, but officially they have the first Uber taxi that can actually work a driverless cars. Now, what do we have there? We have what the robotic sides of the artificial intelligence, both of them working together. And we're only just scratching the surface. So all of a sudden, now let's scale this particular solution and let's see what happens. All of a sudden, the need for human intervention in driving becomes obsolete. So now that is a whole new workforce that is about to be wiped, or it's about to be eroded. So as an investor, if I'm going to be investing, I need to ensure that my portfolio is very, very conscious of the product it's investing in, the companies it's investing in. Because this is not a time for companies to say, you know what, I'm going to stay with the true and trusted. Let me tell you one thing. There is no organization that is too big to fail. There is none. Look down history. We remember 2008 when Lehman Brothers, failed. Can we remember Enron back then? Those were the giants that we thought if they fail, that is the end of human civilization. But no, human quite resilient. So it's about you understanding the A in terms of that, and that is the what? The artificial intelligence. And with the artificial intelligence, we know robotics come with that. And it's only a matter of time before Tesla completely switches. It's just a switch in Tesla for all Tesla cars to become what? To have autonomous, to become autonomous driverless cars. I was having a conversation with one of my mentors, Coach Shola. I think she was in England 3, 4, 5 months ago, and we're having this discussion around. I think that was just when Tesla Twitter was being acquired, and I was saying that imagine plugging AI into Twitter and allowing Twitter to be to be a learning space for a particular specific AI. Now imagine 200 people having text-based conversation on Twitter every day, and that is what the machine does. The machine continues to learn and consume that data. Now imagine how proficient that would be. And I'm not sure if you know, but every Tesla car has about 8 cameras. And those cameras are generating images and creating scenarios to create one of probably the perfect autonomous driverless experience you can have. So every Tesla car out there right now is actually absorbing data to actually train the AI for the driverless cars to become a better driver. So that is A. Number one. Number two, I'll tell you eventually we have the time how all this links together. The B part of it is what I call the blockchain. Now, the blockchain basically it's for better terms, it's basically a distributed what's it called? It's a distributed ledger basically. What does that mean? It means it is an electronic ledger that is distributed across multiple places. See, if you understand the story of money, you know that at a point in time, money became digital. That is when money went through all the phases of barter. From barter, it went into from gold, the paper base, the promissory notes. Then we now have the notes. Then we now have the electronic transfers. Now money is just zeros and ones. So money has been electronic for a while. But what happened what we had then is actually the zeros and ones that is being controlled by a central or by central individuals or authority or communities, basically. So right now, it's if there's going to be a quantitative easing or if they're going to get fresh money into the economy, it is just a few data entry. Like if you apply for a loan and you go to a bank and you apply for a loan, they create the loan from thin air. The money comes from nowhere, and all of a sudden there is an additional 25,000, 50,000, 100,000, $1 million of debt that has been brought into existence. Now, that is just a data entry. It's just some zeros and ones entered on a database. But at that point in time, those are controlled by, so it is centralized. Basically, a group of individuals, a group of government institutions, a group of companies, they are the only people who had control of that data. It's just like the data you have with Facebook. Whatever images you have with Facebook or all of these organizations, it's not yours. It is actually centralized. It is theirs. That is why sometimes they say the server is down, you can't access it. So everything you have that belongs to the cloud, that belongs to a centralized system, it is out of your control. So I think about 40, 50 years ago, we all know the story of Satoshi Nakamoto. All of a sudden, there was the birth of a distributed ledger technology, DLT. And all of a sudden, for the first time, we add a system whereby there is transparency. Truth replaces trust. Now, we trusted whatever the government or whatever the institutions tell us. It's based on trust relationship. What they say is we just take it like that because why? We don't have access to the data, to the facts behind it. But for the first time, we now have transparency, which is the truth. It is now a distributed ledger that is open to everybody. And all of a sudden, transactions were not being governed by jurisdictions and region, but it now became global. So all of a sudden now it is now distributed. Now everybody who has the machine specification could actually hold a copy of that ledger. So if you have enough processing power on a computer, you can actually have a copy of the whole Bitcoin ledger, basically. And that is where the term, the DLT term comes in. That is where cryptography comes in. Cryptography is what is being used to actually make that happen. And that is where the term everybody crypto goes around. But the question there is, why is that more important? Why? What is the fuss about? Number one, it is more efficient. Number two, if you understand human psychology, it's coming to a point whereby trust has failed. It's like this 20-year cycle or 10-year cycle where in 2008, global economy crashed. We all went through that. It seems like, we're never going to forget the lessons. And all of a sudden, it seems we've forgotten the lessons. And it seems it's the same cycle that keeps happening. And for the first time, there is an option available for the first time. And that is the option of a borderless system that enables everybody to transact as equals without an intermediary. Now, if you want to say, if you go to your bank account and you want to send money to somebody, you log into your bank account, you put in the amount of money you want to send, you send it, you give the instruction to your bank will pass the instruction to the other bank will now deliver the message. So within that transaction, there are layers of intermediaries in between. But with the blockchain, It removes the inefficiencies of intermediaries, and we deal directly with each other. And that is why you can, at first when it started, everyone was saying, no, it's just child's play. It's a geeky game. It's just these geeks coming together to see what happens. But the technology cannot be rebuffed. It brings efficiency, the speed and finality of transaction cannot be compared to what we currently have in the current financial structure. If you have to transfer funds from here, pounds, to somebody in Argentina, for them to receive peso, it's going to go through layers of accounts, nostros and vostros and all of that before they can actually get that money. But if I have a USDT here and I want to send it to somebody over there, depending on what chain you're using, sometime the finality time is probably around 2, 3, 5 seconds. Bitcoin is about 10 minutes. Normal global cross transaction on the normal trade file, that means traditional finance, it's about give or take sometimes 3, 5, 7 days. So you can see the efficiency the blockchain technology brings, and that is why we're hearing all the noise right now about CBDCs. Central bank digital currency is still a currency that is built on the blockchain. We heard that Europe said they've just gone to the next phase of the digital euro. England is saying, okay, they are working on that. About 80 or 90% of the world's central banks are currently at a particular stage of either piloting, testing, or rolling out their CBDCs. So it's actually happening because it does bring efficiencies. So the question there is, how do you benefit from what is coming? Because for the first time in our history, we're witnessing a change of guard, a change to the infrastructures that actually carry the pillars and the roads in which our money actually travels on. And for the first time, we have an alternative to the centralized system again that is actually quite digital. And like Raul Paul says, for the first time, the little man gets ahead of the institution in this scenario. And that is the B part, the blockchain. Now, the C part is what I call the chips and semiconductors. Why is that important? Okay, for AI to work, AI needs data to learn. The data are only available by using some specialized semiconductors and chips, or chips are in semiconductors. That is why all of a sudden we heard that NVIDIA actually has done almost 300% in the last 12 months. Why? NVIDIA was positioned because they make chips for video games. So they were able to make specialized chips for data warehouses. That means the cloud solution that has been hosting and that'll be hosting the AIs that is being rolled out. And that is why chips and semiconductors, even your mobile phone you use, the laptops you use, they all run on chips and semiconductors. Chips and semiconductors are technology that can actually tilt the history of nature depending on who. There are very few companies in the world that are in this space. And considering the need and the requirements for chips and semiconductors just went exponential. Why? Almost every company in the world will want some version of AI. That means almost every company in the world will require the services that's been powered by the chips and semiconductors. So when you're thinking of companies you want to invest in, those are part of the things you want to wonder. Who are the names? Who are going to be creating the vast requirements of what we're going to need going forward? And that is the C, the chips and semiconductors. This is an area that is not talked about a lot because many people don't really understand what goes in there. But for every mobile phone, every computer that is out there, there is a need for a chip and for semiconductors. And the people that are powering these chips are the ones that are actually dictating the efficiency and the productivity level of the computers they're actually creating. And that brings me to what I call the D. Now, the D is the data warehouse. Like it or not, all the data we consume has to be stored and housed somewhere. And when we're talking about data warehouse, we're talking about big halls of computers stored somewhere, working 24/7, that actually host all the data we use. We call them cloud because they are stored somewhere. When we need them, we get a connection to them to work on them on that remote computer. And when we are done, it stays there. That is why we call it cloud, because they are far away somewhere and they're stored somewhere. Why is data warehousing very important? Number one, all AIs required a place to learn, and that is in the data warehouse. All blockchains that create data need somewhere to store the data. Number two, all the chips and semiconductors that's been created are actually going to be mostly used in data warehouses. And right now, there are about three companies that actually control 63% of the global consumption of cloud computing. You have your AWS, you have your Google Cloud, and we have Microsoft Azure. Between them, they've got about 63% of the global demand and consumption of data. Basically, they provide data warehouses. People subscribe to them. And in the time and the day we live in, whereby there is endless consumption of data, everything we use, the data is captured. We take pictures, we listen to music, whatever we do, we record this, we record that. All of that are being captured and be stored in a particular way, in a cloud somewhere. That means in a computer somewhere, in a data warehouse. The human need for data consumption would only go exponential, especially with the age we are in terms of artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence needs a lot of data to consume for its learning ability and capabilities. And are you beginning to put all those things together and see how they all link together? Your AI, the A, needs a chip semiconductor that is actually in a data warehouse to perform efficiently. When the robotics part of AI begins to work on machine knowledge and there is exchange of value and transactions, those transactions will need a durable and fast medium of reconciliation in terms of settlement, which will be on the blockchain. So at the end of the day, when you put all of these four things together, you can see the possibility of the exponential growth we should be expecting in the next age we just been ushered to. I'd say probably 6, 8, 9 months ago. The question there is, what are you doing with your investment pieces? What is your investment strategy? How are you maximizing, or how are you preparing for the incoming dispensation? If it's a joke, then countries. China already has its CBDC rolled out. So China is already having transactions on the blockchain. The United Nations just rolled out their first, blockchain-based 100 million loan a few days ago. There is so much happening within the DLT space, within the blockchain technology space, that tells us that the traditional finance is actually migrating into the new age of the crypto environment. So it's creating it's going to be gradual. I'm not saying that overnight we're going to get rid of the existing infrastructures. No, it's about leveraging the efficiency and the speed and the real-time reconciliation that blockchain provides for them to be able to actually now plug into the ever-expanding productivity opportunity we have. See, for the first time, we have the opportunity of humans not really required to actually carry out labor. I was watching, was it not last week on Twitter, on crypto Twitter, and I could see that, Amazon is actually testing out robots that will actually be doing the lifting and moving of the basic manual tasks that humans do. What are we going to have? We'll then have machines that are supervising the robots. We're not going to have the machines that will be fixing the machines. And we're just going to have probably one or two people overseeing a warehouse of probably two, three, four, five robots. A machine that could probably would have employed over 500 or to 1,000 humans. I'm not saying humans are going to be extinct. I'm just saying most roles will be gone like forever. It's only a matter of time. It's not if, it's a matter of when. But the question there is, how are you positioning your portfolio to benefit and maximize the opportunity that's actually going to come? Let me take a breather here and let's see if we have any questions at all from you there to see if I've got any questions. Let me go into the chat box to see if we have any questions at all. Okay. So now, if I were you, what would I do? If I were you, what I'll do there is try to understand, okay, what what are the companies that are actually preparing themselves for the coming dispensation? It's often said that during the time of gold rush, it is always very good to be in the business of shovels and buckets. And this is where all of these companies comes in. When everybody's shouting AI, 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 I'm beginning to ask myself, how will I benefit from the companies that will be servicing the AIs? How will I be able to? I've got a question here. Hi, Besai said, how can one invest across ABCD? That is interesting. That's what I was just talking about. For you to invest across ABCD, I'm looking out for who are the companies that are positioned in such a way whereby they are providing the facilities for data warehousing. They are providing the facilities for chips and semiconductors. What are the blockchain solutions that will be the ones that would either be actually used? But now imagine, currently I think there are about 450 million users across the world, currently, that are actually within the blockchain ecosystem. There are about 8 point something billion people on earth. All of a sudden, when all the CBDCs, whatever we call them, when they are all being rolled out eventually, the possibility of us having close to 3 to 4 billion people on the blockchain technology is there. Now, what do we need to do? For that to happen, people will need mobile phones. There will be software solution in terms of wallets, in terms of those are the companies we're looking at and said, okay, who are the best companies that would actually provide the best apps and the best softwares that would actually be used to roll out these particular solutions? In terms of artificial intelligence, what companies are the best to actually back in terms of AI? Everybody knows OpenAI, everybody knows, but not many people are talking about companies like Microsoft. Microsoft and IBM actually, is it IBM or Oracle? They actually came together because of their capabilities in terms of bringing their strengths together to be strong. And that was actually evident in the last filing they actually did. So it's about you understanding that what companies are best positioned to give it to who are actually within the space. This is not a financial advice. I'm just picking companies at random. One of the companies there, which is actually doing a lot in the space is Microsoft. Microsoft has integrated AI into almost everything they do. And now we have AI in almost every, look, for example, Zoom. Right now, Zoom actually now does what it does, note taking. It now does summaries. It gives you, it pulls together the meeting you've done and gives you highlights. So it's looking at who is in the technology space that is actually operating across all of these spaces. One example there is a Tesla car is a robot that is connected to the data warehouse, that is using artificial intelligence, that is constantly improving its ability to learn while on the road. So many people see a Tesla car, they see a car and say, oh, that's Tesla. But basically, what you're looking at is actually a robot. I hope I've been able to give you a short answer without being too specific, because it's something whereby just understanding it actually is follow the narratives. Where is the narrative leading you to? So it's asking you questions. Okay, who are the companies that are very, very active when it comes to being proactive about AI? Who are the companies that are very proactive in terms of blockchain? And there is actually there's just one blockchain. I was playing around the other day, and I discovered a company that has actually been able to pull together the needs for legal contract creation. What does that mean? It means if you want to create contract between two people, contract and dispute resolution. I've forgotten what it's called. I think it's called resolution technology. So two people who want to actually who've got a dispute, they go on there. It gives you feed it a few information, and bam, there it comes. It creates a contract that you can then execute. So let me go to Tolu Lopez's question. Tolu Lopez says, "How do you predict the ABCD to invest in per time?" Now, this is where a lot of work is required. It's very difficult to predict the future because, trust me, if we had a crystal ball, all of us would be rich right now. That means that we've just gone to look into it and we just go straight away to predict it. But the best thing to do is for you to actually understand is number one is don't pay too much attention to the news, but just being in the know. But most importantly, subscribe to communities where these are the ongoing discussions that's currently going. What I do there is I find a few people in the industry. I follow them on Twitter, most especially because I find Twitter more, user friendly than any other platform. I believe Twitter is the platform for intellectual discussions. Basically, I could be wrong. Personal opinion. Don't hold me to that. So it's been able for you to actually now look for those information. See, the hardest job there to look where is tracking those initiatives before they become main story. In blockchain technology, what are the companies that have the potential? Because all to me, all blockchain projects, whatever you call them, coins, token, whatever you call them, they are projects. They're providing a solution. I look for utility. What utility are they providing? And this is where the digging and the research goes into it. It's about looking at, okay, if you start from, okay, let me look at the top 10 companies in the world. Number one right now is Apple. What is Apple doing in terms of AI, in terms of blockchain, in terms of chips and semiconductors, in terms of data warehousing? If you look in there and you research, there is nothing there. The next one, I think the next company is it Microsoft? No, is it Microsoft or either the Saudi Aramco oil? You look into that spaces, basically you have a template by which you're going out to begin to say, okay, I have a list of things I need the company I'm actually going to invest in to actually be working on or to be deploying or to actually be investing in as well. I was speaking to someone the other day, and they had a few stocks in. I'm not going to mention any organization name, but it's a finance organization, and that organization was from Berkshire Hathaway many years ago. It was a big percentage of Warren Buffett's portfolio then, and I was telling that person, I was like, "Do you actually know that the biggest stock in the Berkshire Hathaway right now is Apple?" So it's about being able to understand that narratives is only for a period of time. There was a point in time where everybody was buying in finance, all these big banks, everybody was buying their stocks. There was a time everybody was buying all these petroleum company, everybody was buying Exxon, all of them. But it's all about understanding the dispensation we are in. And now that there are a few other ones that I don't want to go into today, but those four are enough for you to be able to use them as a checklist to say, okay, as part of my portfolio, and I'm sure you're aware, right? You do not invest everything you have into a particular asset class. It's called risk mitigate. It's about you actually mitigating your risk. So it's about you understanding, okay, this is what I'm going to do per time, and this is how I'm going to allocate my asset. This is in terms of what of the asset classes I'm going to have. And right now there is ongoing debates, whatever it is, with the SEC, whereby the Bitcoin ETFs is actually going through approval process. Then why is that important? I'm just going to touch on this before we finish today. Bitcoin is within the crypto ecosystem. The crypto ecosystem, like we know, is very new, less than 15 years old. There's still a lot of wild west going on in there. That means a lot of projects are still unregulated. So that means a lot of regulated entities, a lot of serious money, pension funds, sovereign funds, they cannot touch Bitcoin because of they cannot touch crypto when it comes to investing. The reason is there is do you expect a sovereign fund or a pension fund to buy Bitcoin off an exchange to now look for a storage unit where they're going to store it in? Who keeps the custody of the storage unit? Who does that? I know a few organizations do have them, which they actually like micro strategy. We know about that, and I think Elon Musk said that Tesla did have some point in time. But the serious funds, the trillions of dollars all over the world, they do not have a direct way to participate in this ecosystem right now. So what the Bitcoin ETF is doing there is creating an agreement and a bridge whereby Bitcoin becomes a tradable stock within the current ecosystem. What that means there is it now becomes a regulated entity whereby every other ecosystem out there, the funds, the sovereign funds, the pension funds, and the big money out there can now have exposure to it. So all of a sudden, it goes out from something whereby we are actually just typing in and saying, okay, I'm just going to do that. Whereby now the institutions, like we call them, up until now, it's been the retail that has been in the blockchain space majorly. Up until now, the institutions have actually been very, very silent about it. They've not active, but we can see companies like BlackRock, Fidelity, ARK Investments, Cathywood, all of them now, they filed for the Bitcoin ETFs. And what they're saying there is they want to be able to bring this particular product to become a traded fund. And that's what ETF means. ETF means exchange traded fund. And what that just allows there is it allows access for that ecosystem of traditional finance to be able to access Bitcoin for starters. So we can say that the future is a lot brighter than we think it is. But to me, I'm so bullish about the exponential age in terms of what AI is going to do. I think 80% of what we currently do now can be replaced by robots and by AI. That one without a shadow of a doubt. Think of what you're doing right now and tell me in the chat box if you think that a machine cannot replace what you're doing. Remember, based on the definition of what artificial intelligence is. So you can see that when it comes to creativity and painting, trust me, AI can paint. When it comes to creating music and melody, AI can create music that you will not be able to distinguish if it's human or if it's not human. Now, the ethical part of that is not for today's discussion, basically. We're not talking about the ethics today. We're actually just talking about you being able to, you being aware of the possibilities. And see, AI does not learn like humans. It does not go to primary school, secondary school, university, PhD, and then all of the no. AI will go from primary school and will go straight away to PhD straight away. That is why it is exponential in its ability to learn. So, in a nutshell, there is need for us to not have the ostrich approach. What does that mean? We don't bury our heads in the sand and just pretend like nothing is happening. A lot is happening in the world right now, especially in the area of finance, especially in the area of investment, especially in the area of the financial infrastructures. There's a change in the guard in terms of how finance and money is being seen before to how it's going to be. Oh, Atolakwe, do we think the ABCD can merge as one? Yeah, to me, I think right now, let me give you a scenario. A scenario which I gave to you earlier on there is you have a taxi that does not have a driver. Number one, that is a robot. That robot is being controlled from a particular data center. In that data center, there are chips and semiconductors that is powering that data center. Now, for financial transaction within that robot, for you to be able to pay for your fare and for you to be real time, that now goes through the blockchain rail. And all of a sudden, in one single transaction, you've touched all the 4 boxes. One taxi fare takes you through the old ABCD. You get into a taxi that is driven by robots. The taxi finds its way and drives because it's artificial intelligence. And that was made possible because there's a data warehouse that is actually guiding and providing efficiency to its ability to be a better driver by the minute it drives. And then the payment is actually being done on the blockchain technology because that gives it what? It gives it speeds and it gives it what? More efficiency. So in a nutshell, that is one example of how a factory worker, a robot in a factory that's working in an Amazon factory is a robot built that is controlled by AI. And that robot has the ability to actually process transactions on the blockchain. Because why? The blockchain is what is used to actually keep records of the stock within the Amazon warehouse. And that blockchain and the AI's ability to learn and the robot's ability to perform is actually, the information is being stored in a data warehouse somewhere. So when all of these things converges together, we get the exponential growth. And I have no shadow of a doubt that it's a lot closer than we think. We have the first driverless car in Phoenix that's been certified in America, which was few days ago. Down my street here, we have some robots, and I think it's all over UK now. We have some robots that does home delivery. So if you want to buy something from the store, you don't need to go. You just make a request. They put it in the robots. Now, let me tell you what the ideal future will look like. You buy something online, it goes on a blockchain technology, distributed ledger. It goes to the store. A robot picks it, puts it in another robot to come and deliver to you in the house. And all that is what takes it through the whole ABCD. So like I was saying in the beginning, they are all interconnected. Do we have any other questions before we go today? So you can always watch this again. It's available on YouTube. And we will be back together. I'll be back again. Thanks to the team, the Power to Know team. Thank you very much. You made this possible again. Thank you. Do appreciate you all. And then I'll be back again, same time next month. Always the last Sunday of the month, 6 p.m. UK time. Thank you very much, everyone. From Coach Mo, God bless.